number one driver of stock price, firm value, whatever you want to call it, is organic growth and its ability to generate future cash flow. And to the degree we can connect what we do to that, we can be successful. So fortunately, I've got a wonderful panel here with some real leading CMOs to talk about demonstrating marketing's enterprise value. And we're going to attack it from three dimensions: analytics, data, and storytelling. Because quite frankly, in my experience, teaching the executive team how value gets created is probably the number one way we get and keep budget. So great conversation. I've got Stephanie from Northwest Mutual, Aggie from Skyward Credit, and Jim from Old National. And we're going to start off. Let me tee up the conversation. Seriously, I get this question all the time. You know, Steve, how can I measure improved value? Is there a magical KPI? You know, how can I attribute revenue? And the issue is this: as marketers, we face a fundamental dichotomy. We are the stewards of the largest financial assets in the business. The Old Dominion brand, the Old National brand, is 20% of the value of the company. The digital customer experience you deliver through your channels is a big chunk. The customer data and the knowledge embedded in there is also a big value. If you compare that to the assets of the treasurer managers, it would dwarf them. But we don't get credit for any of those brands. Meanwhile, our peers think they're smart by saying, can you prove the contribution of this to sales? Can you attribute that? They treat everything we do in marketing as an expense that can be cut. They don't acknowledge that the codified knowledge that exists in our databases, our customer CDPs, we've heard about this, are the things that are going to feed AI to take us to the next level in terms of revenue-generating applications of AI. So we've got this barbell where we are the curators of the biggest assets in the business, and nobody seems to understand how we connect to revenue growth and future cash flow. So I'd like everybody to introduce themselves in context. And when you introduce yourself, can you talk about how marketing uniquely contributes value in your business model, whether it's digital experience or brand preference? And what is the most effective way that you've been able to communicate with your peers and your investors on the ways you measure and realize value? Like, are you winning with finance? Has the sales channel bought into what you're doing? So I guess that's a loaded question, but in short, how is marketing creating value in the business, and how successful have you been at communicating that? Why don't we start, Stephanie?
That sounds great. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Jarstead. I'm Vice President of Marketing Operations at Northwestern Mutual. I'm also Chief of Staff to our CMO. My role includes managing the marketing annual planning process each year, managing our day-to-day operations, and managing our communications. And a big part of managing communications is how we talk about what we do and the value we bring to the rest of the organization. And demonstrating that value is critical. Ensuring that stakeholders, senior leadership, business partners understand and buy into that value is critical. One of the terms we love to use at Northwestern Mutual is called co-creation. We sell our products through 7,000 plus financial advisors, and we co-create with them to ensure we're developing marketing materials that work for them. But on the home front, co-creation is important too. We need to make sure that we are having conversations with senior leadership and with our partners about enterprise goals, enterprise objectives, making sure that we are delivering value that matters to them. So really understanding, what are we trying to drive together? The biggest values that we can bring to the organization at the end of the day are sales, clients, repeat sales.
Hi, I'm Aggie Texhorn. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Skyward Credit Union. I have been with the organization a really short period of time, just under 5 months. But when I joined the credit union, it was important for me to really establish what marketing could do for the organization to really drive value and drive growth, to be more of a growth engine, not just an order taker, not just someone who plans the events or the parties or makes the pretty PowerPoints. And so one way I did that was in partnering with our leadership and really understanding the goals of the organization, our finances, asking to participate in interest rate committee meetings and assets and liability under management meetings. Historically, at past previous financial institutions, I've asked for that opportunity in the past, and unfortunately, many organizations, sometimes the answer you get is no. But I wanted to really show that I want to understand the business. I want to understand where we're having delinquencies. I want to understand our charge-offs. I want to understand which products are the most profitable. Do we need more deposits? Do we need more loans? Where are we at with our finances, so that I could plan accordingly and show them that I'm going to take that information that I learned in those meetings and I'm now going to plan accordingly. I'm going to put together a 2026 marketing calendar, really leaning into the needs of the organization, not just maybe what I think seasonality would require me to do. And the other area that we've really been able to show really the impact on the bottom line is our member experience and the touch points of really diving into when someone's opening up an account, what is that experience like? Where are the friction points? Where are abandonments? And really fine-tuning that experience to make it seamless, and really showing the leadership team that if I'm spending a lot of money advertising and bringing people to our website, but then it falls short at either in the branch experience or it falls short online when they're opening or applying an account, we just wasted a lot of money. So showing them how it's all interconnected and feeds to the bottom line.
Jim.
Yeah, Jim Stadler, CMO, Old National Bank, based out of Chicago, so go Cubs. It's going to start in about half hour. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to, I'm going to approach it a little different way. We're all in this room facing the same challenges. So no matter what type of bank we are, everybody's facing the same challenges. And I always tell people that the number one job of marketing, and I editorialize this a lot with my team, is driving organic growth, period. If we're not doing that, we're not doing our job. And so how does that relate to creating value for our franchise and organization? We're obviously publicly traded, and it's a good time to start talking about this because we're in planning right now for 2026. So this is how I think about it and how we've established a rapport with our CFO and CEO in understanding the value we bring to driving that accretive organic growth to the shareholders. We've, over the years, have focused on organic growth. We've created a structure, we've created a culture, we've created a focus that entirely focuses our organization on that from a marketing perspective. So any decisions we're making on technology from a priority perspective, any allocations of media dollars, any tactical strategies, any AI decisioning, we just had a big AI meeting internally. All of those are prioritized through the lens of how are we going to drive more interest income, how are we going to drive more fee income, because that's basically, those are the two levers in a financial services organization that we can drive. So, and we have 4 different lines of business. They're all unique. We have a retail bank, we have our commercial bank, which is generates the most revenue, a wealth management group, and small business. So each of them derive different, focus on interest and fee income driving, but that's how we focus our entire plan. And it's funny, you go to the CFO and CEO, and over the years, we have built trust because our KPIs are tied to that. They know we're delivering on the ROI, and ultimately, that's the only thing that impacts our stock price. So I think we're very aligned with our organization, and I think organically we get the value and we get the nod from key people in our organization to provide us with more capital to drive more business. So it's a foundation you built and a culture you build that I think delivers on that.
I can only echo that. In the first chapter of my incredibly boring book, I have copies if anyone wants one. I cite a study where it looked at thousands of M&A transactions, and a good 60-some-odd% of the value attributed to those transactions was organic growth.
Yeah. Yep.
Cost savings and efforts to rationalize costs were nominal compared to the opportunity to generate more organic growth. So I think that's powerful. we're going to attack this from a metrics, data, storytelling standpoint. I want to start with metrics. The rat hole is when you start measuring value, we go down the pipeline metrics road, which is inevitable if we've got a big sales channel and, not irrational. But I'd love for you to start to comment saying, okay, let's get more specific about your experience in terms of through co-creation, through engaging with the different business units. What metrics, KPIs have you arrived at that effectively describe value, and what percentage of them are not tied to pipeline metrics?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. We have many, many things that we measure. We measure brand health, brand awareness, brand perception. We measure impressions, clicks, engagement. Of course, we measure plans delivered, new clients, existing client repeat sales, obviously the latter being tied to pipeline metrics. Where we have a challenge is on the field side. Again, we sell through 7,000 plus financial advisors. We don't necessarily know where and how they're using marketing to close that sale. So we have a gap there. And in that case, we look for proxies, right? What are measures that we can identify that will serve as a proxy for us until we're able to measure? We're making tech investments to build out a more sophisticated CRM system to connect our marketing. So we'll get there. But in the meantime, we know that we're doing work and we want to capture that. So we look for proxies like field satisfaction, like field usage of our tools and resources, like consumers reached through the field, and we share that and educate the enterprise on what we're doing in the meantime while we're building out more details around the pipeline.
You said, can I just double click into that? Because we heard another smart speaker say, we spend gobs and gobs of money on sales enablement content, thought leadership, testimonial, and videos. And in my experience, a small fraction of that stuff gets used. And if they use the playbooks and the methods and the videos and the validation content, meaning I've got a customer that looks just like you who's very happy with my financial institution, that's a huge play. Are you getting traction? The whole notion of field adoption of tools and technologies and content and playbooks?
We do. And across the board, there's people who really don't use or believe in marketing, and then there are people who love it right on the field side. But what I would say is the more that we can attribute, like as we get further down the path of being able to do more sophisticated attribution for the field, the more that we can demonstrate the value to them. So if they can see, advisors who use marketing are closing more sales, then we'll drive more adoption. So we can see adoption today, but I think that the more successful we can make advisors, the more they'll use the material.
Would they say you're making their job easier or making them more effective if I did a qualitative survey of 100 folks?
I think so.
Does that count?
Absolutely. That's the field sentiment piece.
I once got an event series. Events are great. The budget approver did a pilot. The CMO walked in, felt the energy in the room, and said, give this guy as much money as he wants. It wasn't very much money, but...
Yes, so we definitely use pipeline metrics. Like I want to be able to report to our CEO and CFO how many accounts were open due to marketing efforts, what was our membership growth, what was our net new customers. We definitely look at those type of pipeline attributes and metrics, but then I want to take it beyond that and look at enterprise health indicators and be able to report on that as well. So what is our digital engagement and adoption like? What is our member satisfaction, our NPS, our member effort score? How difficult or easy are our members telling us that it was to do business with us? And really be able to take a look at all of those health indicators to understand not only what are we doing to fill the pipeline, but to be able to show the leadership team that what marketing is also doing is helping to create sustainable growth and to help with retention. It costs us a whole lot less to just deepen that share of wallet and increase that relationship with existing members than to constantly be attracting new members. Not that we'll ever stop attracting new members, but we have to really take care of the ones that we do. And so really making sure that we are focusing on that member relationship, that member journey, those touch points, and making it easy for them to do banking with us. And then obviously taking a look at things like the marketing ROI on spend and making sure that we're using elements, whether it's the Google tags or UTMs, to really be able to have all proper tracking and reporting in place so that I can report that of our marketing campaign spend, here were the sources that drove people to our website. But beyond that, having the tracking and tags in place also in the online account opening process so that I could showcase, here are the sources, the marketing sources that took people all the way to opening up an account or funding a loan, and showing them that I'm willing to run the business, the department, as my own business. And so if I need to pivot and shift spend, or this doesn't seem to be working, that they can see that we are pivoting and changing accordingly to continue to be efficient with our marketing dollars.
So that level of granularity not only communicates to other people what's working and what's not, but it informs your ability to reallocate and adjust to make the machine run better.
Exactly. It's really just knowing and working with our partners to understand, and knowing that it takes multiple touch points. So we know I'm just not going to do one, display ad and, we'll just get all kinds of business. It's going to take multiple touch points. So knowing that I need to take a look at the full picture, see what all of the sources, how they're performing, but then be able to shift and allocate accordingly to make sense.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it. We have a 2-tier KPI system. So tier 1 is business KPIs, and then tier 2 is, we all have them, the bunch of marketing operation KPIs, whether those are digital or brand health, whatever the case may be. There's a ton of those. And we use those for our day-to-day operating of the business, and they inform a lot about decisioning. But the most important thing is our tier 1 KPIs. Those are very aligned with our 4 lines of business. And just to give you an example, because retail's a little easier because of the transactional nature of retail, everybody's facing deposit gathering challenges. Deposits are more expensive. They fund the bank. They fund our loan growth. They fund our growth period. So certainly in the retail area, we have a deposit growth KPI that we focus on, which is aligned with our CEO of our retail line of business. We also have a primacy metric, and we define primacy in a certain way, but really primacy creates profitable customers. So we know customers that we have to move along a journey to get them to more primal or primary customers because the profitability of our customers go up. We also have a P&L in our retail business. So we just had this discussion the other day. Our peer group probably generates 25 to 30% digital transactions in their retail bank. We're only at about 12% right now, and that's just because of our product innovation. So there's a real good focus right now on digitizing our product, because I'm convinced marketing over the period of the next 5 to 10 years will drive 80% of retail banking sales. I'm just convinced. Absolutely, it's less expensive, it's more personalized, it's more direct. There's no question that's where it's going.
Easier to measure.
Yeah, and then on the commercial side and the wealth side, those are longer tails. We're all about ginning up net new to bank pipeline opportunities and trying to manage the pipeline to help our RMs drive more net new to bank customers. But we're also big on cross-sell. Cross-sell allows us to sell the whole bank. Selling the whole bank creates better primary, more profitable customers. So, and that's in the wealth area too. They're managed somewhat similar. So that's what we really focus on. We meet every month on those business upper tier KPIs, and those allow us to make adjustments in our marketing strategy and plan. And it's really served us well. And I'll say one more thing. We have a great team. It's great when they know how to win and when they know how to succeed. And that's all driven by, okay, what are our goals? What are we trying to accomplish? Everybody wants to win. You want the scoreboard to have a winning score at the end of the day. So that's a very powerful tool that allows our team to understand, where the puck is going, and it's been really, really helpful.
Can I double click in? I think I understand what you mean, but can you actually tell me how you calculate primacy and how you define it?
Yeah, I'll give you a term. Primacy is they have a primary checking account with a certain number of monthly transaction and a certain deposit level, and then we add on, do they have an additional product? So that's how we're defining primacy right now. It's not sophisticated, but it gives us a good snapshot into those customers tend to be more profitable, and then we tend to be able to migrate them to product 2, product 3, and product 4. So that's how we define it today. Could that change in a year? Sure, it depends on our mix, but that's how we do it right now.
Got it.
right.
Well, so we've heard a lot of metrics, awareness, primacy, share of wallet, cross-sell penetration. My personal favorite is brand preference. I think that's the most powerful metric because if it's a tie, you win. Observation. These are not easy to calculate, and getting the data is expensive, difficult, and problematic. Can you talk about the data? Do you have the data to enable these metrics? How much of an obstacle is that? And how are you going about getting that data? Because obviously, some of these things sound good. Doing a brand awareness and preference survey is really expensive, and the methodology is pretty tight. Can't afford to do it necessarily, even though it's an important metric. Could you a little talk about the data limitations and opportunities?
Yeah, we do measure brand awareness and brand perception on a quarterly basis. It's one of the OKRs that we measure and track up to the enterprise. So we use a third party to do it. We make the investment. It's very important to us that we're maintaining our brand health. The piece that goes along with that from a marketing standpoint is helping the enterprise understand the value of that, painting a picture of what does brand health mean. Brand health means not only are people aware, but they view us as a financial planning company. They understand what we do, and we'll get more for our products. We'll be in the consideration set. We'll make more impact because we have strong brand health. That's some of the ongoing education that is required, because everybody wants a well-known brand. I think that we have one. But you have to help people really understand the value of that.
I got to tell you something. You just identified 2 downstream outcomes from that metric. One, am I in the consideration set? I'm going to compare 3 different policies. Are you one of those 3 out of the hundreds of options out there? And those are some powerful things. Are you able to make those connections mathematically to say, oh, by the way, when health is good, we get a high degree of consideration, or is that connection just intuitively understood? I mean, is there actual data that can make that connection, or is that kind of a wish list type of thing?
I think it's a wish list kind of thing. I mean, I think there is data. There's third-party data that would help you demonstrate that connection. But in terms of how we show that connection, it's through general education.
Got it. How is data helping and hurting or inhibiting your ability to execute some of these powerful metrics you just described to us?
It can be really difficult to connect and have all of your systems communicate and work together. I think attribute is super difficult sometimes to really be able to prove, especially if you're still doing a mix of some traditional marketing channels in addition to digital marketing channels. And then as Stephanie mentioned, education is key too with your leadership for them to realize not everything you're going to be able to have, a solid bottom line attribution that you're going to be able to report. So for example, Skyward right now, we about 3 months ago expanded our field of membership. We used to be seg-based and be focused on one specific employer in our area. We recently expanded that field of membership to all aviation professionals. And so we're doing a big brand campaign over the next 6 months to build awareness so people know who Skyward Credit Union is and who all we can serve now. But having a lot of those conversations and education and really level setting the executive team right from the very get-go so that they realize, yes, it would be great if we ended up getting, a swarm of new checking accounts at the end of this, but that's not ultimately our goal. It's really share of voice. So right now, at least in our particular region, Skyward is not openly talked about. I've had several appointments recently, doctor appointments, and of course, just to make small talk, the doctors are like, where do you work? Oh, what is that? What is a credit union? And so there's obviously a lot of education and awareness that has to go on in order for people to even have you in your consideration set. And so really making sure that you explain that this is not like a paid search, bottom of funnel marketing tactic. You're going to have to really be out there talking a lot and having content out there for people to even understand who you are, for them to even have, your organization that's top of mind. So share of voice can be another really great way, especially prior to something like a brand campaign. If you have a tool like Meltwater, and you can put in your local financial institution competitors and say, okay, how much is my organization, how much is Skyward being talked about right now? And then measure that at the end and be like, hopefully then you can see, okay, there's more mention of us. It doesn't mean that we've now can report, thousands of new accounts, but people are talking about us more now, which gets them to consider us. And as the speaker said earlier, nobody wants to change banking. It usually ends up being because you have to for whatever situation. And so we know, especially in this industry, you're going to have an uphill battle to get people to switch over to you. So you have to really just be front and center and top of their mind for a long period of time before they might ever consider switching over to you.
Yeah, can I double click in there? Yeah. I have the privilege of working with a really good brand, Mack Truck, which means nothing to anyone here other than the equipment finance people, but everyone likes the truck. But I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. In their business, if I was talking to their CEO, electrification of trucks, driver safety, total cost of ownership, and long-haul trucking. They're trying to break into that. They care about those 4 words. They track the heck out of those 4 words. They're not generally in the conversation, in those 4 words. But are you doing something similar where, driver safety, that's their thing. They track it, they see where the conversation's happening, they see how they stack up, and they act on it. Are you doing something similar, just because people don't even know what a credit union is and relative to what flavor you are and perhaps the reasons you're better? Are you doing something like that?
We are obviously through paid search. There are certain keywords, aviation, credit unions, things of that nature, where we want to really be able to be at the top of those search results. But as we know, AI and how people are searching nowadays, that's continuing to change and make paid search more elusive and harder to be as efficient and effective as we were in the past. But I think especially with tools that show that share of wallet or share of voice, I should say, those are the same tools where you can enter keywords and be able to really track and measure, are you showing up in results that are tied to that particular keyword? So I think honing in and diving deeper into those opportunities to really be able to show not only how much is the organization name being mentioned, but are we showing up and being part of the conversation regarding those specific keywords? Yeah,
so it's a combination of being clear on what words mean I'm going to generate organic growth, success or failure, and measuring them. How is data helping or hurting or enabling your measurements?
It's our number one raw material. We don't have it, we don't survive. So, and we're all struggling with it, right? It's hard in banks. It's all over the place, and so we're in a process of trying to bring it into the cloud in one location, and we're doing a pretty good job with it. So it's our raw material, but I wanted to get back to the brand, because even if your performance marketing-based brand is so important, and I'm going to try to share a little anecdote where I think why brand is so important. Does anybody use Curinos out there right now? Any hands? Okay. Curinos is a financial services consulting firm, and the good news is they have probably the top 150 banks and all their deposit information. So why is that important? So we just did an exercise with them where we took our 40 MSAs that we're in and we said, okay, where are we going to get growth and where are we going to do business as usual? And both upper and lower funnel. And why did we do that? Well, we only have so much money, and we need to be really smart about where we're going to allocate our resources, because media, whether it's lower or upper funnel, it's our biggest part of our budget. So we got more sophisticated on that. And then we do a brand equity study with Harris Poll. And the point of that is we measure awareness, we measure consideration, and we measure equity. The 2 top ones help us understand, because we're in a lot of markets that we acquired and our brand still needs a lot of building. And some of those markets are where we need to spend money, because that's where the biggest opportunity is to drive net new to bank growth. So that metric and there's a correlation, Curinos will tell you, there's a correlation between, and there's a lot of factors, but if you have a high awareness level or if you continue to drive awareness, it will lead to net new deposits. I'm just using deposits as an example, and that could be any product that'll grow your share in that market. So we're focusing our allocation on markets where we know we can grow. We're using that metric of brand health to understand, are we making an impact on our brand continuing to grow from an awareness perspective? And then we'll draw that correlation to see if we're, obviously through the percent of deposit growth we gain in those markets. So it's just an anecdotal way of kind of showing how, and it's all driven by brand. I mean, if you don't know us, you're not going to consider us. If you don't understand us, you're not going to.
I like the way you're taking that data and cross-hatching
So
it.
just an example.
So if you haven't figured out, I'm a nerd, and particularly I'm a value of marketing nerd. If you don't believe me, read my book and fall asleep. You'll realize what a nerd I am. You're using a lot of terms here today. Brand awareness, cross-sell. I think I understand these. To be honest, if I put 40 of us in a room, we'd probably come up with 4 different ways to calculate those things. But let's suppose we as marketers, sophisticated marketers who came to Chicago, know how to calculate these things. Does anyone else in your company even understand what those metrics mean, much less how to calculate them and what its impact is? And I'm getting down to, is executive education, or by extension storytelling, really the impediment more than KPIs and data to getting this across? Can you talk a little bit about how other people understand these metrics and how you tell that story, and does it make a difference?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think it's actually a fine line, because we do measure many things in marketing, right? And not all of them are relevant or meaningful to the rest of the organization. So in my opinion, it's understanding which ones are.
Return on advertising spend isn't the most compelling thing on the planet
Well,
Earth?
it might not be, but it is oftentimes one of the highest costs. So in the case of advertising spend, I do think that there's a need to educate around brand health measures and make sure people understand what they are, why they matter, what they translate to. But some of our other measures, some of our campaign measures, impressions, reach, engagement, may be less meaningful. So we focus on educating around our brand health measures, and then making sure that we've done the test, determine the attribution, and report on our incrementality from a sales
And
standpoint.
how's that going for you? Like, who's the best student and who's still missing the message?
Yeah, it's interesting, because at Northwestern Mutual, so much of the organization works with our field force. 7,000 advisors, I think I've said it 3 times now, sorry. It's hard to get to statistical significance when you're trying to measure from 7,000 advisors, right? So a lot of the enterprise doesn't actually understand why marketing can get to statistical significance, but we're looking at 5 million clients, and it's a very different story. So we work with partners like our corporate strategy team, our internal data teams, to establish tests, to have a control group, and then run our campaigns, and then we can get to statistical significance. But we have to educate around what we've done, why it works, and then we have the buy-in to say, oh, we understand why your campaigns contributed X, Y, Z, and we're going to build those into our sales plans going forward.
Awesome. How is storytelling, executive education, common lingua franca helping or hurting you?
It definitely takes education. People's level of awareness of marketing and all that it takes and all the buzzwords and keywords, it varies across an organization and the leadership level. So really being able to explain what the different attributes mean. And I have found it's helpful to have, dashboards and charts that show the trends over time. So if I'm talking about how many impressions or clicks, one, for them to really even understand what is an impression. And really then taking it beyond that to show the trend line. Okay, well, we did great this month, but is that up or down? And what is the benchmark? Where should we be? So I think really layering the context and being able to illustrate it graphically so that they can fully understand. As an interesting anecdote recently, just being relatively new to the organization, again, less than 5 months, I would attend the monthly board meetings, but what I noticed was the CEO and CFO had a seat at the table with the board members, and the rest of us on the leadership team were kind of on the outskirts, more of bystanders. Recently, at the last board meeting, I didn't wait for an invitation. I took a seat at the table. And I found an opportunity during the board meeting to insert how we were able to take advantage of a recent situation, a merger with another credit union in the area, and what marketing was doing to drive market share and to be able to take some of that market share from that merger. and really being able to showcase how marketing can really quickly pivot, take advantage of an opportunity, and then be able to come back with them and let them know the results of that and what we were able to achieve has now garnered me a standing agenda item every single month with the board. And so really being able to just take that one brave step of sitting at the table versus sitting on the outskirts has now been able to give me that opportunity to be able to explain even more on an ongoing basis what marketing is doing to directly drive growth for the organization.
I love that story, because you can come out of that meeting and say, wait a second, I can create a lookalike customer that looks and smells like this profitable person, but based on these attributes. And I can also see that these are the people who are high margin spenders, and I can find attributes of those people. And I also know where we're losing money, and I can put in screens and filters to measure to make sure we're avoiding those things. So taking those bad financial outcomes and translating them into marketing tactics and strategies, I think is very powerful. You go belly to belly with what, 5 business unit heads?
Yeah, but they're probably not the problem. It's more of our CEO and CFO, but they're great. I would say we all have that challenge. We just got to continue to reinforce what we do. I mean, it's an ongoing battle, right? The one thing I do, I can't, they covered a lot of what we're all facing. I have one-on-ones with my CEO and our CFO on a monthly basis, and that helps. We have an agenda. We have very specific topics we talk about, but a lot of it's around, what are we doing to drive, revenue and the brand. So it's helpful because it keeps it top of mind, and a lot of good questions, and it's somewhat informal, but I found that to be helpful. So it's just an ongoing, we all face it in all of our businesses. Whatever business you're running in, if you're a head of commercial banking, you have the same thing. So, yeah.
Well, we have a few minutes before the Cubs game. So we have a wealth of knowledge up here, and I welcome any questions to tap into it. They probably don't know what they know. So please ask any questions. I'm sure you have some value and measurement problems of your own. Yes, ma'am.
I'm interested to know a little bit more about reporting on your analytics. How have you been able to, streamline? The question is around streamlining how you're doing your reporting on analytics. So there's stuff coming from Google Analytics. There's stuff coming from your CRM. There's stuff coming from, LinkedIn and other social media platforms. How are you bringing those into, a solid report that you're making, meaningful for the exec team? And, kind of how much time are you devoting to that? And I guess one more question is, do you have someone dedicated on your staff that's dedicated to reporting, or do you have multiple people all doing this on their own?
I like that question.
I don't think I have a good answer, so I'll keep mine brief, and maybe you two have a better answer. We have a dedicated data team who handles our reporting. Our data is very decentralized and siloed, so the reporting process is quite manual. It pulls from different platforms, different places, sales teams, and it's input into a monthly dashboard that is, I believe, Power BI based, that is shared out with the enterprise. So I don't know that we've cracked that code. We need our data centralized before we're really efficient in our reporting.
I would love, on my dream wish list for the organization, we need to hire some more data engineers and data scientists to make this so much easier for us. I would love to have a Power BI dashboard that pulls all this into one place. I don't have it with my current organization, but I've had it in the past, and that has been super key to every day as I'm having a campaign. I can tell live that day what is working, what's not working, and where I need to shift. what I'm doing currently is we have different folks who have their subject matter experts. So for example, I have 2 people on my marketing team. One is focused on the website and Google Analytics. So she'll monthly let me know what's happening with our website and visits and what pages are the top visited ones, Google Analytics, things of that nature. And then what I do is I compile all those various data elements and I put together a president's report for just the marketing section. And I give that to the CEO, and that gets part of the board packet that gets presented to them.
You know, what you described was a revenue operations Frankenstein. The reality is that there are 4 different people, a CRM administrator, a person sitting on top of Marketo, a financial analyst who have this data. And then there's a person with a financial acumen who can explain what this data means to the business and translate it into the types of stories and metrics we're talking about here. And so that actually is a symptom of what's gone. That we have the BI tools, we have all the analysts. We've got the brains here who know how to tell the story and develop it. And it's not so much a data problem, it's the pyramid of people with their hands on that data, and they're looking at it like a silo and not seeing this whole picture. So that Frankenstein story, if you could find a RevOps analyst who could do all those things, keep her. Or train her. I mean, that's really, you've really nailed the problem. Any other challenges or questions?
There's one over there. Oh.
I didn't see.
Right by the light.
Oh, yeah.
First, I want to say, great panel. I learned a lot and heard a lot. I had two thoughts, 2 kind of questions. One is, I think when it comes to data analytics and the BI dashboard and the Google Analytics and all the other inputs, the key thing for the marketing, the CMO, is to own the narrative. And that's like, Abby, was that your name in the middle?
Aggie.
Aggie, sorry.
Yeah. It's okay.
You got to have the guts and the temerity to be able to say, let me explain the story of what this means. Because I think the biggest challenge we all have is when you disaggregate all that data and you've got a CFO or someone in the CFO's office and someone in the treasury group and someone in a business lines aren't as big an issue, interpreting the data themselves and telling the story and focusing on, let's say, the wrong thing or not what you think is the most important is a kiss of death. So I was just going to say owning the story. And then the other thing I just wanted to say also about content is the content's changed. I mean, there's a lot of the talk today has been about AI and rapid change. Long form thought leadership is dead. And part of the challenge for us all is really adjusting to the way people consume subject matter content, insights, and so forth. So I think a big challenge for all of us is just how do you keep up with it? And it's like a TikTok, attention deficit engagement we're struggling with, but adjusting to, what do salespeople think? You got nationwide, you got a ton of people out there. It wasn't nationwide. It is nationwide. You've got 4 million customers. You got 7,000 agents. What kind of content do they engage with? In dropping your previous thoughts and adjusting to what's working now. So anyway, more of a comment, but I totally what you're saying really resonates.
Well, we are at time, and I just want to thank you guys for digging in on a very difficult topic, and I do think it was a great panel. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give it up for our
Thank you.